Warriors Unite! Back with an episode of Bigger Warriors 2 in the 1% Club. Hope we're doing well, my friends. Hope you guys are conquesting things around you, conquesting yourselves first, and thereby following God's purposes to become the highest value male and female that you can become. So, hope you guys are doing well. Thank you guys for the comments. Thank you guys for the feedback. I appreciate all the interest, even negative comments, things we need to improve. That's great. We'll keep doing that. I'm looking forward to doing another live stream probably within another week or so. I'll let you know the date and time specifically. I'm looking at probably next Tuesday or Wednesday, something was around there. But I'll let you know for sure pretty soon. All right, some quick shout outs before we get a topic. I forgot Tyrone Man asked me for a specific topic, so thank you. Shout out to Tyrone Man 6479. Knowledge Harvester, thank you. Doug J, thank you. Andy, thank you. Omar Shaaban, thank you. Official Brother Boldly Musick, thank you, my friend, as usual. Toby VH, thank you. Karam P, thank you. Noir Blank Extreme, thank you. Gio The Genius, thank you. Stephen Qurkel 2010, thank you, my friend. George Jetson, old time, thank you. Joshua Wood, well, thank you. Not available, thank you. HB Art Cover Music, thank you. Rafael Caetano, thank you. Rodge, thank you, my friend. Off the Wall, thank you. Oleg, as usual, thank you, Oleg. Duke D, thank you. Omar Shaaban, thank you. Jim Kolfran, 100 days at this point, so I hope it's a lot longer than that. Good job. Alvin Tiffen from Liverpool, thank you. Welcome. Southern Leans, thank you. Channel 3. Wants to talk about Waban, WBAN. I'll look into that and do more of that. We have a topic on that coming up pretty soon. Hani Abu Hiijeh, thank you. Herbs888, thank you. Lykkos, thank you, my friend. Knowledge Harvester again, twice. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Once. Mr. Ace, the Knowledge Berakah, thank you. DA Club, thank you. Planet World, Gods, Gladiators, and Kinny Dehh. So thank you guys very much for all your great comments, and I appreciate those, and keep them coming, and we'll kind of try to catch up with them as much as we can. All right, so the topic today, this is Reinhardt Bieler, has given us a good topic, talking about the loss of vital nutrients during semen retention. So let's talk about this. So he was asking about things like hair loss and other types of issues dealing with things that happen. So we go back to the topic we're talking about here, and we're talking about energy. Now, we are in the plans. We've talked about this whole thing. The whole key is not to lose your energy, whether it's the physical energy of the actual semen you're talking about, or it's actually talking about the psychological, emotional, with all the drama going on, or spiritual types of things when you're kind of put in positions where you start losing, getting a lot of stress and activity. So a lot of these things can drain on you. You want to try to keep as much energy war as you can, because there's lots of battles out there, a lot of things you have to kind of deal with in life. And this is an important type of thing nowadays in the world we're living in right now. So one of the things you want to do is you want to give yourself the best option to do this. Now, the biggest thing again, and this is like the apple, this whole thing with, the devil and Eve and all the stuff in Genesis, we talked about the Adam and Eve type of story, that this whole apple sitting out there has been this apple of, well, you need to release a lot. It's good for you. It's the best thing you can do. And if not, you're going to kind of, you have all kinds of medical issues and things like that. And because of that, what's happened is everybody's kind of conformed to that. It's almost like the same thing in dating patterns, that we have people, that women and men are looking at things and being brainwashed in many ways, saying, okay, well, we don't need masculine men anymore, right? But women are still looking for it. They may not treat them well. They may not respect them as much. And that's individual modern women nowadays have trouble with some of this, the toxic masculinity we're talking about. But they really down deep want a masculine male. Males want a feminine female. And so again, when you see things changing, this is why there's lots of problems in a dating situation. There's lots of problems going on in relationships, in anything, because males down deep should be masculine and females should be feminine. When you see more of the other opposite, you have issues. Now, why is this some of that's happening? Well, as we talk about here, people are losing energy, or they're transmuting energy, or they're transferring energy. Now, What we talk about, what we mean by this is, again, every time you have any sort of release, whether it's emotional, most of the time we're talking about the physical, but also emotional, you're now transferring that to someone else. According to Newton's laws of physics, you cannot destroy or create energy. We are all made of energy. If you accept that, that hypothesis right there, you accept that, then all of a sudden you're going to say, okay, so Vigor Warrior 2, what's going to happen then if we lose energy? Where does that go? It's not being destroyed, it's being transferred. So what you're doing is transferring energy. So when you have intercourse with somebody and you release, you're giving them the energy that you had, and certainly through procreation and things like that, that's a well-suited, giving up energy. This is why we talk about males and all kinds of species struggling to stay alive, many guys, physically or psychologically, after they reproduce. Because they're giving up half of themselves, or a lot of themselves at least, to be able to have children. So when you're giving yourself up, you are giving. And men are the biggest givers of all. I know there's a lot of complaints about all this other kind of stuff that women may have of men, toxic masculinity, all this kind of stuff. But men are huge givers, especially if they're in love with someone or they really want to be with somebody. They're huge givers. So they're giving. The trouble with this is when you're giving, you're losing something, and that woman is getting something. Now, when women also release, they give back to the man as well. So now you're going back and forth. But what's happening is that as they're doing this more often, you're seeing a change where you're seeing a lot of men become a lot more feminine. And a lot of females are becoming a lot more masculine. And I can't tell you the amount of people that I meet now in their 20s, mid-20s, late, that are all, females are more masculine, and they think this is what's going to attract men. And there's going to be some men who will be attracted. There's going to be a lot of feminine men who are attracted by that. But as the world, and the world always goes back and forth, as the world changes again, and you're becoming less and less liberal, and you're going to go back to some kind of conservative type nature, because people know that that's how society works, that how society will last. They will become back to the old values again. You see a lot of these women struggling because men are walking away. They're not going to want to be in those relationships. And because they realize that they don't want to compete with another masculine person, being that female. And so a lot of females are upset right now. They're upset with the MGTOW movement. They're upset with not being able to find people. I see it all the time. I talk to women, try to help women through a lot of these type of things in counseling and things like that. And you see it all the time. But the whole thing is they don't realize they've kind of bought into this movement that tells women that men are bad or evil. They don't need men. They can do it all themselves. And it doesn't make sense. Obviously, when it comes to children, they think they can just go ahead and get sperm donations, whatever it might be, and have children by themselves. They don't realize how difficult it is to do this by yourself. And unfortunately, they find out, and then they can't find someone by the time they get in their 30s. They've hit that wall, and all of a sudden, men are interested in women that are in 20s, not interested in them any longer, and the ones they do want are not interested in them. So it's really a dangerous type of thing that's happening in our society. But then we talk about the fact that this has been caused partly by males and partly by females. When males are having intercourse so often and trying to release it, they are becoming, in many ways, more feminine because they're giving up energy, especially if you're talking about masturbation, you're talking about releasing all the time, you're talking about cases where men are giving up their energy for no reason, no procreation, no reason at all. Short-term pleasure is really what the reason is. And it is short-term. The guilt and everything else comes after that is long-term. And I know I felt like that for many, many years. So the thing is, what you're looking at is you're trying to look at something where you're focusing on something that looks at how you can become the best high-value male you can. And what we're talking about here is you're talking about during your self-control, celibacy, you're talking about having, focusing on brahmacharya, sophism, whatever belief system you have with this, the main thing, the main consistent thing across with this is keeping your nutrients. Because if you lose your nutrients, there's a lot of effects that can happen to you. They've talked about this since the 1800s. And I know a lot of that is past history and people don't want to go back and look at the research. But as time went on, there's a lot of theories talking about people who have had physical problems. And it makes perfect sense because if you're losing your nutrients, you're losing lecithin, you're losing phosphorus, magnesium, right? You're losing a lot of these things that are important with brain power. And that's why I used to say that people used to do this all the time. They used to have, their brain, they couldn't think. I remember even that movie, The Godfather, where they were talking about Sonny and he was just, having sex all the time. And his father was saying, you can't think anymore, right? You're getting too violent. You're just overreacting because you're not thinking. And because you're not thinking is because you're so interested in having, sex with women. So the thing is that, you're not focusing on this and you're not realizing what this is taking out of you. Obviously, when it comes to health, we see it all the time. You see people, and a lot of the research indicates that people who've had long bits of, this abuse, self-abuse to themselves, you could see it in their bone structure. They get very weak, withdrawn, their eyes, all of a sudden we start looking like skeletons. And the thing is as time goes on, it makes perfect sense that you're losing those vital nutrients when you're releasing, and it's going to affect things like your hair. So it's very possible, and I don't have scientific proof of this, of course, but it just makes logical deduction that if you have all your nutrients and all of a sudden you're losing those, especially as time goes on and you're getting older, then all of a sudden you're going to not be at 100%, which means you could have problems with your, all kinds of issues, your stomach, your legs, you could have issues with your eyes. They used to say back in the old research that if you did this more, you did this, the more blind you'd get. And that was always the fear. Now, some people now look at this as kind of wives' tale because this is something back in started in the 1900s. But if you think about it, it just makes perfect sense. If you're losing your nutrients, it's almost like you're giving part of your body up every day with this stuff. And as a result of that, you're gonna become a weaker person. What you've gotta do is focus on, no matter what age you're in. I'm 63. There's no reason why you can't become as strong as you can, as old as you can. But you've gotta keep your nutrients. Because you're really not, especially at my age, I'm not interested in having any more kids. So really it's more of a case of making sure you're keeping your body in tone the best you can. And the biggest thing to do with that is keeping that energy. Now, you can focus on, what I would always focus on as the toughest part of this is the monk mode. Not thinking about it, not even interacting with a lot of the women, not even trying to, kind of engage any kind of vision of them because we're very visually oriented, especially males. So it's hard to do this. But certainly the release part, and you got to take this one step at a time. This is why a lot of us kind of go back and forth, and I did that for 47 years. You have to go ahead and realize that you're taking one step at a time. The first step we talked about is committing to this. You're committing to it. We talked about the 7 steps in a previous video. You're committing to this. You're basically saying, I am not going to do this self-abuse anymore, right? The second thing you got to do, certainly as we talked about, is habits we talked about. Those are the 2 key points in trying to do this. You've got to get away from bad habits, create new habits. So if you know that you're releasing at a certain period of time for whatever reason, and once again, we'll do one on this coming up pretty soon one of these days about night. The night is not your friend, and I'll probably use that as a title. The night is not your friend. The night is something that happens, and because of probably a lot of things, and I'm not really even aware of those type of things, so I kind of had to look it up and think about it a little bit. But things happen a lot at nighttime, and because of that, this is the dangerous part. So you've got to try to change those things. Get to bed early, get up early. Like I end up swimming at like 5:30 in the morning, and I take the dog for a walk, and I get a lot of my steps and calorie stuff in there early, and then you're ready for the day. But the thing is that you want to make sure that you got things going on, goal setting, getting yourself together, becoming the best person you can become, and getting away from the thoughts of all these things that can lead you down the wrong path. And that's why you got to fight that. You have to fight to the point of saying, okay, I'm not going to give into it. If I get a thought, I got a couple deep breathing things I can do. Kelder's 6 right, where he's holding his hands on his hips and breathing up and out. That helps you if you're going to get aroused and excited. You've got to figure out and say to yourself, I got to stop this before it gets to the point where it's going to be a danger area. Because even things like edging and things like that, you're going to lose a little bit of energy. Of course, you're not going to lose as much as if you're totally releasing. That's something, at least it's the better of it. And I think God, obviously, and your creator is not going to be, if you're trying and you're trying to get to him, you're trying to get closer to him as time goes on, which is, I think, the biggest purpose of all this is, in the long run, becoming the most perfect person you can become. No one's ever going to be perfect except our Lord and creators. And Jesus, in my case, we're not going to be like Jesus Christ. I'm not going to be Jesus Christ, but I can try to emulate as much as possible, as long as I'm here. And part of that is keeping as much inside yourself. I really believe people like Muhammad and Jesus, all these people were super people, superhuman people, because they were, they probably retained. They probably retained all the time, and they were just so good at that. I'm not. I'm getting better, but we're all at the point we got to get better and better and better. So again, I think the key is that you're going to have a lot of effects, negative effects, if you keep releasing. We know that. And I'm kind of talking a lot about the choir here because we all know that. But certainly, please go out and share this with people. Try to get people. The main thing I do this for, it's got nothing to do with any kind of money or any kind of recognition or status. I don't care really about any of that kind of stuff. At my point, I'm trying to kind of teach. I do this for, as my career anyway over the years. I teach communications, I teach math, I teach science, I teach a lot of statistics, I teach a lot of different areas. And I think somebody actually asked me about teaching a class in this. Maybe one day I will teach a class in Kellner's Fountain of Youth. I would love to do that. I think those are great things. And then obviously a byproduct of that is talking about retention and celibacy. Those things are important. I think the churches need to go back to that more, talking about that. But once again, we're in a society where it's frowned upon. They don't look at controlling sexual behavior as a virtue anymore. And I think that's a key type of thing. We need to look at controlling yourself as the highest virtue of all. Because that's going to lead us back to our Creator and focusing more on spiritual things than worrying about the physical. And I think when Jesus says, come follow me, drop everything, leave everything here, he meant spiritually go with him. And that's hard for many people to do. Many people are tied up into the physical. Okay? All right, so anyway, the idea is that you really want to kind of focus on going ahead and saying, okay, we're going to try to control ourselves as best as possible, learn all those things, transfer it into all things we do, and therefore we're going to keep our vital nutrients within ourselves, and we're going to be more successful as time goes on. All right, friends, hope you enjoyed this one. Thanks again, Reinhardt, for the topic. I think I'm going to kind of talk about energy more tomorrow with another one. Obviously, more energy with retention and all the benefits. We'll talk about that. And then we'll kind of talk about even the use of sex to control men in the next one as well. So we'll keep going. And once again, we're going to look forward to doing a live stream coming up in another week or so. And be ready for that. All right. So 2 things I always leave you guys with. 1, every day is a new day to a great warrior. And you guys are all great warriors. And I appreciate all you guys' support. And I think we're over like 5,000 people or something like that. It's great to see. It's great to see that people are starting to think about this. And I see this with the MGTOW movement. I see this men who are realizing that a lot of this is not worth the sex, the stress and things like that. And I see a lot of women who are going back to some of the older values and becoming more feminine. I think that's great as well. I think that's the way we should be. Obviously, I'll probably get a bunch of haters on the coming back at me for this kind of stuff, but men should be masculine, females should be feminine. There's no doubt about it. And the thing is then also, the second thing, as I always remember, I almost forgot this one, is that basically the idea is that we are in a war. We're always in a war. Every day, we've got to continue to better ourselves. We got to continue to fight the battle internally. And it means that we turn it internally, it becomes out internally. And that's why I always say, we need to battle on! All right, guys, have a great day. Take care. Bye.